Adelaide's podcast on AUSPOD Syndicate.
We are talking about digital PR and communication. Our guest for today, she loves traveling and have been traveled to more than 40 countries. Wow. I only traveled 4 countries, right? All my whole life. But our guest traveled 40 countries. That's a lot. So please welcome Erin Carey. She is a digital PR and communication. Welcome to the show, Erin.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here, even though we're on lockdown, but we're in self-isolation. We can still make this work, and we can continue to hopefully inspire other people to eventually travel once more and set up their own business as well, even if at the moment they don't feel like they can. Hopefully in the future things will go back to normal, and my advice will be useful to them, if not right now, sometime in the future.
Well, tell me about yourself. So sort of our audience and listening right now is so you love travel and you travel almost 40 countries. How did it started?
Yeah, so well, where do I start? It kind of started back in high school. I remember I cracked open a fortune cookie, and inside the fortune cookie it said, "You will travel far and wide for both business and pleasure." And for some reason that really struck a chord with me, and I remember I sticky taped it to a contract and that I typed out myself on the computer with my best friends, that we would travel overseas after high school. And then it kind of just went from there. I met my husband, and then we traveled to quite a few countries. We went on our first trip was like a whirlwind holiday around Europe for 8 weeks. And then we went to South America a couple of years later, where we went for our honeymoon. And then the year after that, with 6 months backpacking throughout Asia and Europe. And then most recently, we actually have been living on a boat in the Caribbean. And we've only just got back about 4 months ago. So we were away for almost 2 years, living on our boat. We sailed around the Caribbean, all throughout the island chain there. And then we sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and ended in the Azores, which are a tiny little archipelago of islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, about 900 miles off the coast of Portugal. So that's where our boat is right now, actually. So yeah, she's sitting there waiting for us. We were meant to be going back about this time next year, but at the moment now that's not looking so promising. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, we do hope to get back to our boat one day and continue our adventure.
So what do you think your greatest achievement on traveling? How did the adventure came about?
Yeah, so I would definitely say the greatest achievement in life, which happens to be a travel achievement, is sailing across the Atlantic Ocean, because we weren't actually sailors. So it all came about late 2015. My husband and I, we live a very normal life in the suburbs. We both have middle management jobs in the public service, so just kind of your average family. And we sat down one night to watch a documentary. Actually, we sat down to just watch Netflix. We didn't plan on what we were watching, but my husband happened to put on a documentary about Laura Decker, the youngest girl to ever sail around the world. And I wasn't even planning on watching it. I was just scrolling on my phone, and then a couple of minutes in, it kind of grabbed my attention, and from that moment on, we were both transfixed. I put my phone down and I was just completely focused on this video. And by the end of it, I just remember the credits rolling, and we were just kind of sitting there speechless. And then the credits kind of finished, and we finally snapped out of whatever trance we were in. And we just both looked at each other and went, wow, let's do it. And it wasn't as simple as that, but it almost was. So from there, we moved to the computer and we started Googling families sailing around the world, and realised that it was actually a thing. We had no idea if it was even possible or if anyone else was out there doing it. I realised that there were actually thousands of families sailing in different parts of the world and living on boats. And so from that moment on, we decided that we were going to do it. It took us about 3 weeks to lock it in our minds and build up the courage to tell everybody. And then we told all of our family members, who proceeded to crack up laughing when we told them, and they didn't believe us and thought that we were, stupid. We weren't sailors. We'd never owned a boat. We didn't have any savings. We were just a regular family. We had credit card debt. Like, we were in no position to buy a yacht and sail away. But 2 years and 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Of us. So I should add that I've got my husband and 3 boys. Were 3, 7 and 8 at the time, and we flew out on one-way tickets to Grenada, which is a Caribbean island, and we started our adventure. And the moment that we saw our boat for the first time was the first time that we'd ever laid eyes on her. We bought her sight unseen. So we bought her over the internet and just paid like a surveyor to go and check her out for us. And thankfully, she ended up being a great boat. Could have gone, a lot worse, but it all worked out quite well. And the first time, because she was currently on land, she was on land when we first saw her, and then proceeded to live on the boat on land for 6 weeks, and then finally got it put into the water. And the first journey moving the boat from like the marina out into the harbour where we anchored was the first time that we'd ever driven a boat that size. And we basically just learned as we went. We would go out and practice anchoring. The first time we practiced anchoring, we couldn't get it. The second time we couldn't get it. By about the third time, we started, learning how to anchor, and then we might travel, 1 kilometre around the corner to a new anchorage, and then the next, few days later, a week later, we'd travel 5 kilometres, and then we just kind of built up. So come after 18 months of sailing around the Caribbean, we knew from the start that we really wanted to cross an ocean. It was just something in both of us that it just would have been an amazing achievement. And even though what we did, regardless of whether we had to cross an ocean or not, was an amazing achievement, it was just something that we both wanted to do, to be able to say that we'd sailed across an ocean. And we had bought a boat with that in mind. So we bought an older boat that wasn't, because a lot of the modern boats are more open plan, spacious, luxurious, but they're not as strong and tough. So we'd bought this big old tank of a boat that wasn't as spacious inside, and had lots of dark wood. And so the newer boats are white and very lovely and modern, but we bought this old boat because we wanted to cross an ocean. So I think that was in the back of our mind that we'd been living on this kind of darker boat for 18 months. We need to cross an ocean because we bought this for the reason. But it wasn't easy. There were lots of challenges that almost stopped us from going across the ocean, but eventually we did. So that was in June last year. And so for 3 weeks, we sailed across the Atlantic Ocean without seeing land and without stopping, 24/7 around the clock. We sailed across the ocean and landed in the Azores. So definitely my husband and I's greatest achievement, and I think it will be for the rest of our lives. And I love that even when I'm 90, I can say that I sailed across an ocean, and I think it'll still kind of give me goosebumps that we pulled it off.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, is that because of your adventure, this business that you are setting up, is there a sort of that travel adventure?
Absolutely. So before we set off, like I said, I worked for the government. So I was doing security clearances, which did involve me interviewing people. So I would interview people, find out a lot of information about their life, and then have to formulate a report and come up with a decision either way about whether or not they got their security clearance. So when we were out on the boat, we had saved up enough money for what we hoped would last 2 years, but everything obviously always costs more than what you expect. So about 12 months in, we were realizing that, our funds were going down a lot faster than what we anticipated. So I was racking my brain trying to figure out how I could make money while sailing. It was really up to me, because maintaining a boat, especially an old boat, takes a lot of time, and my husband was so busy maintaining the boat, keeping us all alive, sailing, that I wanted to bring something to the table in that regard. And so I during that time, I was keeping a Facebook page where I would just share stories about our adventure and life on board. And people would always comment about how much they loved my writing and how much they enjoyed reading what I was writing. And it kind of got me thinking maybe I could do something to do with writing. So I started learning how to pitch magazines and ended up writing for quite a few of the sailing magazines. So that led to, in the sailing world, there's quite a few popular YouTube channels, and these YouTubers, they're obviously sailing around parts of the world as well. We just happened to bump into SV Delos, who are the #2 sailing YouTube channel in the world. And I asked them if I could write an article on them, which meant that I went to their boat and interviewed them and got to know them. And we just kind of kept bumping into them throughout the Caribbean, because we were both sailing there at the same time. And through writing that article about them, they kind of reached out to me and said, would you like to do some PR for us? So one thing kind of led to the next, and before you know it, I was starting up my own PR business, and now I have my own PR company where I work for adventurers, sailors, digital nomads, people that are living an inspirational lifestyle. Basically, if you're doing something that other people are going to find really exciting and different, and if you're living life, differently, then I help those kind of people share their story by writing about them in magazines and getting them podcast interviews, getting them interviews and features in newspapers. And so it is honestly all down to our trip. If we hadn't have watched that Laura Decker Netflix show back in 2015, we hadn't have constantly put ourselves out of our comfort zone, learning to sail, buying a boat sight unseen, learning how to navigate the world and then crossing the oceans, I would never have dreamt that I would have started my own business. And it was a life-changing trip in many ways, and especially because I got a whole new career out of it as well, which is really exciting.
Whew, just what a story. So you're saying a PR. So some people doesn't understand what is digital PR or public relation.
Yeah, so PR is what other people, excuse me, are saying about you. So marketing or advertising, excuse me, is what you're saying about yourself, whereas PR is what other people are saying about you. So if you can get other people talking about you, or if you can get your story out there, it's building like your reputation in the community. If you can become a trusted source of information, if you can get people to start having you front of mind, that's what public relations is. So by me helping them share their story, it's getting other people to talk about them. And then my ideal goal with my business is to increase their followers, which will in turn increase revenue, and then also save them time. So my clients are traveling the world, often living on a boat, and it's hard enough living on a boat and maintaining a boat. Like in the YouTuber's case, filming, editing, and all those things are a full-time job. So if I can then take the PR off their hands, then I'm saving them time where they can concentrate on doing the things that they love and that they're good at, and we're really growing their audience and helping their revenue so that they can continue to do what they love, which is traveling the world.
All right. So you're saying some of your client is a creator, a YouTube creator, a content creator. So
Mhm.
what are your help and tips for people who is going to wanted to create their own channel, their own content for YouTube or other social media? So what is your tips for them if they want to start it? So just for me, for example, for me, I've been doing YouTube since 2008, but
Mhm.
I'm not a lot of follower because I'm busy doing some content. I have no time to do the public relation or whatever. What is your helping tips to them?
Well, you can hack your own PR, so to say. You can do your own PR. It's not uh, it's not impossible to do your own PR. It just takes time, and public relations is all about building relationships. So the reason that PR agencies are successful in what they do is because they've built contacts with people, and that's why you kind of tend to have a niche. So my niche is obviously the adventure, travel, sailing field. So I've built up quite a few contacts in that niche, which then enables me to reach out to those people and say, hey, I've got a client who is a yacht charter who can speak about kite surfing in the Caribbean. And so then I'll arrange for them to do a podcast interview with that person. And so they speak as a subject matter expert, but at the same time, they're getting the name of their business out there. The show notes of the podcast will have a link to their website in there. So they're building, the links on the internet, which is good for SEO. There's lots of little ways. Then the podcasts will then share the podcast with their audience. The business will also share it on their social pages, and it's all about leveraging. Every time they get a media hit, it's about leveraging that to then share it around. So in your case, you could try and find other podcasters that you could also do an interview on, and then you could interview them on your podcast, and then obviously both share it on your socials. You could try and get an article in local Adelaide magazines.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about kind of niching down and thinking, okay, who are my ideal audience? Where do they hang out? What kind of things are they reading? What kind of things are they watching? Whereabouts on Facebook do they hang out? What kind of groups are they in? And then targeting those publications or podcasts or newspapers that are relevant to those people. And a lot of people kind of come to me and say, oh, we want to be in Forbes and the Times magazine. And I mean, it's the thing is, it's for starters, it's unrealistic that they will reach those kind of big publications. They're often paid to play, but also you've really got to think in a magazine like that. Often the people that are reading it are not going to be interested in your business. So if out of 100% of people, 0.1% are actually interested in your business, is it really even worthwhile being in that magazine when you can find a really targeted publication that, for example, might be all about sailing, but we know that 95% of the people that are reading that magazine care about sailing, are interested in sailing, and are going to be interested in your story. So yeah, it's about finding those publications and then creating a pitch. So a pitch is something everybody can do. There are things that make pitches better, but it's all about trial and error as well. If you send out 5 pitches and you don't get a reply, tweak it a little bit and send it again. But essentially what you're going to be saying in your pitch is introducing yourself and sharing an angle of your story. So while my story as a whole might be interesting, in saying that this point in time with COVID-19, I could look at what angle of my story might be more interesting, and that might be the fact that I homeschooled my children on the boat for 2 years. So now I know all about homeschool, and I also know about isolation because we sailed across the ocean and we were isolated for 3 weeks. And I know about provisioning because I had to stock our boat with 3 months worth of food. So those things are really relevant to what people are going through right now. So in my pitch, I would, write that about that angle of my story, and then send it off and hope that the editor that you've sent it to, or the journalist that you've sent it to, thinks that it's going to be useful for their readers, because the whole point of that is that you're sharing your story not to get benefit for yourself, although that is obviously what you want, but you've got to think about what the magazine's going to get out of it, and hopefully your story is going to be of interest to their readers. And so that's how other people can do their own PR. But like I said, it's time consuming and you often don't get a response. So it's not unusual to have to follow up 2, 3, 4 times. And it's pretty cutthroat. There's a lot of people that are fighting to get on that magazine page and get in that newspaper and get that podcast interview. But it can definitely be done. But it also, if anyone wants some help or advice, then there are plenty of PR professionals out there that can help, either in a small way. There's all different kind of size of packages, or you can get the whole service. But so I could keep going on about it, but basically, it's just about sharing your story and trying to find the right people who want to listen to it.
So you're saying on your tips is that you have to have your own niche, which means there's only one topic, not scatter. Is that the correct way if you want to grow your channel, your brand? So you have to have one niche.
Well, I'm not saying that you just have to have one niche, but I think it does make it easier if you know what your niche is. But your niche might be the fact that you don't have a niche. I don't know a lot about what your podcast is about, to be honest. So I'm not sure if you interview all different kinds of people from Adelaide, and that in itself is the interesting part of what you do. But I guess it's good to find your target audience so that you know who to concentrate on, so that when you do go to share your story, it's not like you're not just throwing the net out there and hoping to just get somebody. You're really able to target it. And whilst you might be going to fewer publications, you're going to get a bigger hit rate because it's a more targeted approach.
So in line on influencer marketing, all right, so some brand or some company are using influencer marketing. Is that as a content creator, is that necessary to have 1 million of followers before brand will pick on you?
Again, that's a really difficult one. It's not so much in what I do, but from what I believe, it's really not, because you can go out there and buy followers. I mean, I could click on, make 3 or 4 clicks right now and I can buy 100,000 followers. Anyone can do that, and we know that now, and it's not expensive. I don't know how much it would be, but it probably wouldn't be much more than a few $100s, I would guess. So it's really more about the engagement rate now. And if you can have all the followers in the world, but if you're getting literally 2 or 3 comments, it doesn't mean a lot. So I think it's really important that people really concentrate on their engagement rate and create content that is valuable for their listeners. Make content that adds value to their life and that is meaningful. And especially in these times now, if you had interviewed me a month ago, it would have been a different answer. But with the coronavirus and, the way everyone's feeling right now, really it's important for creators to be mindful of what they're putting out and to put out things that are sensitive. Another good tip that I have is that it's a great time to do good. So if you can do something good in this time, it's quite likely that your business will do well. So it's a good kind of mantra to live by. Do good to do well. but at the same time, don't do good just to build followers. People will be able to see right through that. If you do something good, or if you can tie yourself to somebody who's doing something good at the moment, if you can collaborate with somebody who's doing something really good and you have a genuine want to help people at this point in time, then you will do well and people will remember that. So as much as it's a scary time in the world and it might seem like now is not the time to get into PR, it is almost the best time to concentrate on putting your name out there, on doing good things that people are going to remember, because this will end and you can either kind of stop all of your PR and marketing and be forgotten, or you can really thrive during this time, remembered for doing something memorable. And it doesn't, it's not all about not everyone can save the world and not everyone's in that position to do something huge, but even if it's keeping people's spirits up, if it's doing something that's funny, if it's, people are going to need content during this time, but I think times are changing and the people are going to have to change it up a little bit and just find out what's working and be really sensitive to the situation. And maybe it's not all about, the individual anymore. We see so much about people that are so self-centered and it's all about them. Maybe it's time that, things are going to change and it might be more about community and, building relationships and how we can help other people going forward.
So on my next question, in relation to what you said, what do you think is the role of digital PR in current situation right now, like the COVID-19, the coronavirus? What is the important role you think?
Yeah, so I think it's a similar kind of answer. It's to keep you front of mind without being tone deaf. So if people are creating at the moment, take a look at your monthly schedule. If you've got, quite a few of us plan things a month or two in advance, take a look at your future posts. If you're in amongst all of the COVID-19, millions of people dying, and then we see something where you're trying to sell something, it's going to come off really tone deaf. So stop with your scheduling. Post things for now, day by day, and really judge how things are going in the world, and stop with the hard sell. Hard sells don't really work to start with, little like during this time, and think of ways that you can help people get through these times.
That's correct. So more sensible on during this situation.
That's right. Yeah.
On the side of the PR, why do you think PR is better than advertising? Some people say advertising is better, but some people say PR is better than advertising. What is your opinion about this?
Well, I can go and put an ad in tomorrow's newspaper and say that I'm the best PR agency in Adelaide. I mean, that's not true, because I haven't been going for very long and there are plenty of great PR agencies in Adelaide, but it's an advertisement. It's what I'm paying to say about myself. So, I mean, you would know yourself, if you're looking through, how often do you take notice of an ad? How often are you pausing or muting the ads on TV? How often are you just skipping straight past them? Because, we've all become a little bit desensitized to advertising because it's so in your face. No one likes a hard sell anymore. What if we see the sponsored ads come up on Facebook? I mean, I personally scroll straight past them unless they really grab my attention. So advertising is what you're saying about yourself. PR is what someone else is saying about you. So if you're interviewed, that journalist is writing that article about you. They can interview other people about you, and that creates PR. So PR is more trusted, I believe. They both have place, they're both equally important, but yeah, PR is more about what other people are saying about you. And in this day and age, reviews are huge. I mean, every time you buy anything these days, even down to toothpaste, people are looking at reviews, and in a way it's similar to PR. It's what other people say is trusted more than what you can just pay to say about yourself. And if you also compare the size of like an advertisement in a magazine, if you had a whole page advertisement, you'd be paying thousands of dollars for that. Whereas if you get in a magazine and you've got a whole page interview or article about you, PR is free. So unless you're in a pay-to-play kind of magazine, you're getting equivalent of thousands of dollars worth, and it's not something that you've paid for and therefore not so trusted. It's being written about you. So PR it's something that everyone can try and do for themselves. Obviously, if you go through an agency, you're probably going to have better luck. But like I said, they've both got their place, but PR, I believe, is a little bit more trusted.
Thank you for that explanation. So we don't have time right now. So what is your message to the small business content creator during this difficult time?
Yeah, so my message is to keep going. It might seem hopeless. Keep creating your content. Keep putting it out there. Be the sunshine in the darkness. I mean, a lot of the people I work with are really inspirational people. Keep doing what you're doing, because we're going to need you. We're going to need, you've become an inspiration for a reason. And right now you might not feel like creating, or you might not feel like you're being helpful. But I believe that, down the track you will be. And if you're bringing some joy to somebody's life, not knowing what the situation is going to turn into, just having that laugh, or watching that sailing video of someone sailing around the world, or scuba diving under the water, or climbing a mountain, might be what is needed to get somebody through that day. So my advice is to keep going, change your message up on social media, be more sensitive, do something helpful that is going to help others. And it's not the time to stop doing PR. If anything, it's the time that you can thrive. Think about how your business what angle you can go at, or to use what you're doing to really thrive during these unknown times.
All right. Thank you so much for that.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or via RSS. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, rate and review this podcast and share it with your friends. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
It's Adelaide's podcast on AUSPOD Syndicate.